It happened on a Tuesday morning in late October. The kind of gray Seattle day where the rain doesn't quite fall but hangs in the air like a threat. I was already in my terminal in the sublevel data center of Horizon Financial Group when Ryan Whitaker walked in. He was the new CTO, brought in 6 months earlier from a flashy startup to modernize us.
Tall.
Polished, always in slim-fit shirts with rolled sleeves like he was about to code something revolutionary. He stopped at my workstation, eyes scanning the green phosphor glow of the old IBM mainframe console I'd kept humming for 14 years. "Still running on this relic?" he said with that half-smirk. Half-pity look people give outdated technology. I didn't look up right away. My fingers kept moving across the keyboard, entering the daily integrity check routine I'd written myself back in 2011. The system responded instantly, clean hashes, unbroken audit chains. Every payroll tax record mirrored perfectly for IRS compliance. It didn't care about trends or cloud hype. It just worked. Reliably.
Silently.
Ryan leaned against the rack. "Sophia, this setup is nostalgic. But nostalgia doesn't scale." He didn't wait for a response. He was already turning away, tapping notes into his phone, probably drafting the next all-hands email about digital transformation. I felt it then, the first real chill. Not anger yet, just the slow realization that my world, built line by line in custom scripts no one else fully understood, was being measured against something shinier. For 14 years, I'd been the quiet guardian of Horizon's most critical compliance layer. Horizon handled payroll processing, tax filings, and vendor payments for thousands of mid-sized businesses across the Pacific Northwest. The mainframe wasn't just storage, it was the immutable ledger. Every Form 941 payroll tax deposit, every W-2, every quarterly reconciliation carried my custom hash-chaining protocol. It created cryptographically signed trails that satisfied IRS auditors without question. I'd optimized it after hours, documented the forks from the base OS in handwritten binders stored in a locked drawer. Because digital files could vanish with one bad update. Ryan brought his nephew, Alex Whitaker, 26, fresh from a coding boot camp with a title that sounded impressive, Lead Cloud Transformation Architect. Alex arrived wearing expensive sneakers and carrying an iPad like a trophy. In his first team meeting, he projected slides full of Kubernetes diagrams and serverless architecture buzzwords. "We're moving everything to AWS," he announced. "Legacy systems are holding us back. This mainframe? It's a single point of failure." He never asked me how the validation chains worked. Never sat down to review the SFTP protocols I'd built to mirror data directly to Treasury gateways.
To him,
it was just an old humming box labeled deprecated. I tried once, politely, to explain the legal binding nature of the local hash validators. "The IRS doesn't accept reconstructed summaries," I said. "They want the original signed chains run in the controlled environment." Alex chuckled. "We'll simulate it in the cloud. Redundancy is built in." Ryan nodded approvingly beside him. No one else in the room pushed back. The silence from leadership hurt most. Finance knew their reports synced through my scripts. Legal had survived 3 clean audits thanks to my prepped packages. Yet when Ryan started talking deprecation timelines, everyone nodded like disciples. I felt invisible. A ghost in the machine I'd kept alive. The pink slip came 2 weeks later. HR called me in without warning. No performance issues cited, just strategic realignment toward modern infrastructure. 2 months severance, a generic letter, and a request to sign quickly. I read it carefully. Signed without argument. There was no point fighting a train already in motion. I packed slowly, my favorite coffee mug, the printed schema diagrams I'd annotated over years, and the encrypted USB drive hidden in my locked drawer containing the full offline backup of the chain validator routines. No one noticed me slip it into my bag. The terminal stayed logged in, cursor blinking patiently as I walked away. That evening, sitting in my small Ballard apartment with my rescue dog Max at my feet, I replayed the day. 14 years of loyalty. Late nights debugging compliance flags. Weekends ensuring zero audit discrepancies. All erased because someone saw green text and thought old. Ryan and Alex celebrated the migration kickoff the next week with company-wide Slack emojis and a catered lunch. I watched from afar through a former colleague's forwarded messages. Alex posted screenshots of dashboards lighting up with real-time metrics. Migration phase 1 complete. Faster reporting. Scalable infrastructure. The mainframe was marked offline in their tracker with a single spreadsheet note. No formal decommissioning checklist. No handover session. They simply assumed the cloud copies were equivalent. But equivalence is an illusion when you're dealing with federal compliance. The raw, time-stamped, locally validated hash chains, the ones carrying digital signatures tied to the original mainframe environment, weren't exportable as simple files. They required the exact runtime context I'd engineered. Clouds don't replicate that trust layer without deliberate reconstruction. And no one had asked me for the blueprint. Weeks passed in quiet routine. I picked up freelance consulting gigs, helped a small credit union audit their reporting pipelines, spent more time with Max on rainy walks along the waterfront. The severance helped, but the ache lingered, the sense that something vital I'd nurtured was being discarded carelessly. Horizon's internal announcements grew triumphant. Full cloud coverage achieved, Alex wrote in a company blog post. Marketing turned it into LinkedIn case studies. Leadership beamed in quarterly meetings. Dashboards sparkled with color-coded widgets. Reporting cycles shortened dramatically. No one mentioned the basement server rack where the mainframe still sat, powered down by a junior technician one random afternoon because the green status light annoyed him. The first crack appeared in February when the registered mail arrived at legal's office. United States Department of the Treasury. Internal Revenue Service. Subject: Mandatory Compliance Examination, Employer Tax Records. 5-year look-back period. Response required within 30 days. The junior compliance officer who opened it highlighted the key lines. Original source files required. Full validation hashes. Unbroken chain of custody metadata. Reconstructed exports or summaries would not suffice. Panic rippled through the executive floor faster than any Slack thread. Legal pinged IT. Confirm access to original employer tax logs 2018 to 2023 with continuity hashes. Alex replied casually from his open plan desk downtown. Should have been included in migration. Checking now. But it hadn't. The audit chains lived in proprietary routines nested deep in the mainframe's custom environment, shorthand commands I'd written, layered on a stripped Unix fork that didn't speak modern APIs. The cloud held pretty summaries, sanitized PDFs, but not the certified, tamper-evident originals the IRS demanded. By afternoon, the war room filled with tense faces. Ryan Whitaker sat at the head, sleeves rolled higher than usual, trying to project control. Finance reported their pipelines broke when attempting to regenerate hashes. Legal pulled old contracts and found the clause I'd helped draft years earlier with a Treasury consultant, named continuity expert required for critical IRS-bound systems during any major infrastructure change. My name appeared clearly. The room went quiet. Calls started that night. First from a block number, then from the CEO's office. Martin Ellis, Horizon's longtime CEO. Sounded measured but strained. Sophia, there's been a development with compliance. We'd like to discuss reinstating access to legacy protocols. I let silence stretch, forcing him to continue. The audit requires elements we appear to have gaps in. I cut in gently but firmly. Did legal explain the continuity clause naming me?
Pause.
Yes. And the 30-day escalation timeline? Another pause. "We need to transact," I said calmly. "Not chat." I laid out terms without drama. External consultant role only. Six-figure retainer paid up front. Full indemnity for any prior shutdown fallout. And a signed acknowledgement from Ryan Whitaker that my termination occurred without required knowledge transfer, violating the IRS clause. Martin didn't argue much. Time pressure loomed. I sent an invoice the next morning. Returning to the building felt surreal. The security guard scanned my new contractor badge without recognition. The server rooms smelled the same: cold concrete, chilled air, faint ozone from old electronics. The mainframe rack had a red, decommissioned sign taped sloppily to it. I peeled it away. Inside my case, encrypted drives, the physical schema binder, laminated login sequences. A junior legal associate hovered nervously. "Need assistance powering up?" "No," I replied. I booted the sandbox environment first, keying in the 3-line recognition sequence. The green screen flickered to life, accepting the handshake after years of dormancy. Behind me, the small crowd, legal, IT, finance, exhaled collectively. The audit chain loaded. 5 years of pristine records. Every hash validated against treasury templates. It matched perfectly. Verification complete. The junior associate looked relieved enough to tear up. "Can we replicate this in cloud?" I shook my head. "Not without rebuilding the exact runtime. This is environment-specific." No one argued. Ryan Whitaker was notably absent. Rumors said administrative leave. Alex kept his distance too. I spent 4 days drafting the new protocol document, 47 pages of airtight procedures. No system sunset without full knowledge transfer and author validation. Quarterly expertise retention reviews. Named custodians for critical compliance layers. Mandatory rollback paths with human sign-off. Cloud must deliver verifiable federal equivalents, not vendor promises. I presented it to the board in closed session. They listened without interruption, then asked me to lead implementation as external technical advisor. The shareholder meeting in May carried heavier air than usual. Extra chairs filled the room. Investor relations cameras rolled in back. Martin Ellis approached the podium holding a framed document. He turned it to face the audience. Ryan Whitaker's signed acknowledgement admitting the termination lacked structured knowledge transfer, causing the compliance lapse. "This," Martin said slowly, "is what happens when speed outruns wisdom. When dashboards replace due diligence. Modernization without memory is malpractice." The room absorbed the silence. I stood near the exit. Contractor badge clipped discreetly. Notebook in hand. A few board members nodded acknowledgement. No public apology needed. The lesson had embedded itself. Alex Whitaker received reassignment to low-stakes innovation webinars and a cubicle near the break room. No more infrastructure authority. Ryan's resignation was framed as strategic transition. I didn't gloat. The green screen had already delivered its quiet verdict. Back home, I filed the final check. Updated my protocol quarterly like clockwork. Max curled at my feet. The syntax still lived in my muscle memory, ready if called upon. Not because I was the fastest, but because I remembered what trust actually required. Continuity, not convenience. Sometimes the future only runs smoothly when the past is respected in its own language. Horizon learned that the hard way, nearly rewriting themselves into regulatory oblivion. The question lingers for anyone chasing the next shiny upgrade. When the auditor knocks, whose knowledge will you still be able to call upon?